Well, hello everyone. My name is Carlos Heredia from Papaya Playa Project, and this
Hi,
is
my name
Samir.
is. What's up? I was just going to introduce myself there.
Go for it. Go for it. Sorry. Go
My
for
name
it.
is Samir Ibrahim. I'm in Nairobi right now, and I'm going to be talking about an initiative called Shikilia.
Great, great. So great to have you here. We actually just met recently. We're in complete different places in the world, but it seems like we're both aiming to do something for our community. So I'm very happy to have you here. We can hear about your initiative. The full moon celebration we've been doing online has been focusing on bring interesting content to people who are at home, and but also try to inspire them in doing things in their community as well, right? Um, Papaya Playa has been doing a lot of things recently for food relief and a lot more for the community. But we also wanted to bring people who are doing things in other parts of the world, maybe places that we don't know or places that we've never been to, we haven't heard enough of, right? So I was introduced to Samir recently through a great friend, Vandana Hart. She introduced us and told us about this great initiative Samir is doing called Shikilia in Nairobi, Kenya. So Samir, can you tell us a little bit about yourself first of all? Like, who are you?
Yeah.
How did you get into activism, and why Nairobi?
Um, so to understand those questions and these answers, I think you have to go back a couple of hundred years. So my family is actually from East Africa, and Nairobi is the capital city of Kenya. And they got here in 1850 from India. So they were one of the first few families to get on a boat and then see where the wind took them and landed very happily in Zanzibar. And they were traders. So my great 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 grandfather was landed in Zanzibar. And then in the 1970s, my family left to North America. There were a lot of East Africans of Indian origin who were getting prosecuted. So they left to North America. So I was born in Canada, in Toronto, then grew up in Florida. And I think, because I was an immigrant child, my parents were first generation to the US. They always really reminded me about all the opportunities that I had that they didn't have. And I really grew up with the sense of always hearing about the opportunities that I had, and then always getting reminded of the responsibility that I had to help those who didn't have those opportunities. And I really think that's where the drive for whatever you call it, activism, social engagement, all of the names for taking the resources that we have that might be misplaced and helping them get to the people that don't necessarily have the tools to lift themselves out of poverty.
Amazing. No, that's great. So you that's interesting. So you've been living in Nairobi for some time now.
Yeah, almost 8 years now. And it was funny because my mom grew up in Kenya. And when I told them I was going to Kenya, they were like, "What?" Not happy about it because they had worked so hard to leave and then give me a life. I was self sufficient in New York City. I was living their immigrant dream. I was living everything they had worked towards. And then telling them I'm coming back here was a big shock for them. They're very happy now, but it was a very funny engagement when I first told them.
Yeah, I can imagine. And how are things in Nairobi right now during this COVID-19 contingency? To be honest, in Mexico or in this side of the world, we don't get a whole lot of information about what's going on in Africa right now.
Yeah.
We get bombarded with local stuff or US or this side of the world, but like, what is going on over there? What's happening?
So I'm just pulling up the new numbers now. I would say in general, it's really interesting, right? So I've never the wealth disparity is super apparent right now.
Hmm.
So across Africa, and I'll speak from my experience in Kenya. People are talking about social distancing. People are talking about self quarantine, but that's not necessarily something that a lot of people can do. A lot of people live in very small homes. If you look at the 15 million people that live in these informal settlements, they're living at two or three people per room. So telling people to socially distance is very difficult. The wealthy people are able to stay at home, where so many people that don't necessarily have those means have to keep going to work. We've only had 650 confirmed cases in Kenya,
Hmm.
but only 31,000 tests. And as a reference point, in the US, they're doing like 150,000 tests a day. And even in these testing, there's a wealth bias, right? So only wealthy people can get tests. So I think the Kenyan government has put in some amazing measures. I was really impressed by the way that they acted quickly, they acted swiftly, but because of our lack of resources, it's really difficult to actually get a sense of what's going on. And I think one of the scariest things is that we just don't have enough numbers to be able to see what's going on, and people are going hungry right now. And I can get to that in a minute, but it's just sad. It's really sad.
I mean that's it's interesting because we live in third world countries, but it's such a complete different environment. And it's a complete different way that a government can respond, right?
Yeah,
From even here, like between Guatemala or Paraguay or Uruguay, every Argentina, all of Latin America is reacting, according to their government. So
yeah,
it's interesting to see also all the support that's happening in the different areas, and also we also went into quarantine at different times,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Um,
And just
so
kind of seeing like how these governments like what the tools that governments are using based off of their different contexts, right? So
yeah,
how do you weigh like actually putting people in a lockdown versus the economic and health danger you would put them in by doing that? And really seeing how those decisions are being made, it's tough. I'm sure it's quite tough to run a government right now.
yeah, no, absolutely. I much respect, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But tell us about your initiative. So I've heard you're doing with Chiquilira, you're doing emergency cash transfers.
yeah,
So tell us a little bit more about what emergency cash transfers is, or why it's important, or why you chose to do this kind of support.
yeah. So my day job, the job I get paid for, I run a solar business. So I've spent the last 7.5 to 8 years using technology to help protect people from shocks in the environment or the economy. So I work with smallholder farmers. So when coronavirus, when we had our first confirmed case in Kenya, I, along with a number of folks in the public and private sector, started assessing, who's going to be hardest hit right now. So let me just set the scene so sort of the listeners understand what the scene is over here, right? So Kenya has about 45 to 50 million people. Um, Most people are under the age of 35.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have about half of the unemployed folks are youth. We have about 15 million people that are engaged in the informal sector. So they have informal jobs, whether it's in agriculture or in sort of trade or in construction. And only 3 million people are part of the formal economy, right? So you have 5 times as many people that work in the informal economy than in the formal economy. So that's the balance right now. And 90% of all new people have had a total or partial loss of income. We have, about 70% of the people that have been surveyed in the informal sector have skipped meals in the last 2 weeks as a result. You have 80% of the people that have been surveyed can't afford hand sanitizer, and less than 10% have received in-kind support from the government. So you have this like the most economically vulnerable so that they have access to their basic needs of food, water, rent, money, and medicine. And when we sort of looked at this crisis and we identified sort of the tools that were available to solve this, direct cash transfers was a very easy answer for us for a number of reasons. So for those of you listening, direct cash transfers is exactly what it sounds like. You directly give money to somebody. Now, this isn't a new thing. This is being used in over 100 countries right now as a COVID response. It's been used very successfully in Kenya. Um, and the benefits of cash transfers is that it's very quick. And often there's a lot of stats that say that it's better for food security than food handouts in a lot of countries, and that it
Hmm.
helps stimulate the local economy. So what we've done is we've taken existing successful cash transfer programs and we've adapted them to match the current pandemic. So cash transfer programs, if you break them down, you have really three big pieces of them, right? So you have the targeting. So how do you
Hmm.
identify the people that are vulnerable that you need to give money to? Then you have the implementation part in the middle. So how do you invite people? How do you enroll people? How do you send them money? How do you do fraud checks? How do you do monitoring and evaluation for impact metrics afterwards? And then
Yeah,
you have
I
the
was very
fundraising.
curious
Yeah,
how it works. No,
yeah,
like how
yeah,
like you get the donations, and then how do you
yeah,
figure this out? Like how to distribute, all the funds.
yeah. So what we've done with those three pieces, right? The targeting, implementation, and fundraise, is we've kind of leveraged technology to shift them to be able to match the needs. So we've identified the most economically vulnerable communities in Kenya by looking at a lot of geospatial and demographic data. So how many people per shared room, lack of access to toilet facilities, shared water facilities, lack of access to clean water, and a number of different indicators. So we actually mapped out where the most vulnerable people in Kenya are. So that's how we
That's
target them,
great.
right? And then to identify them, we're using community-based organizations, so local NGOs in the area who have contacts with people in those areas, and we're getting their registration lists. So that's phase one. Phase two is we're hopefully going to be working with the telecommunications provider to be able to identify the people who live in those geographies, which is just a much faster way of doing it. So when we
Hmm.
receive money, we work with implementation partners on the ground and we send money directly to people. So we've already enrolled tens of thousands of people right now, geared up to do hundreds of thousands of people. And our target is reaching 2 million Kenyans.
Wow, that's amazing. Really great work. 2 million Kenyans.
Thanks.
So
2 million Kenyans.
that sounds so complex to organize. I mean, for
Yeah,
us,
for
delivering like
sure.
food packages and stuff, we went through a process of talking to the government and local
Yeah.
organizations to map out in a similar way. But to find people the way that you're doing it is pretty incredible. I mean, it's quite the task. And so far,
It's
how's
quite
the
the task.
feedback been?
I mean, feedback is like the stories are kind of what keep you going in hard times, right? Like this is
Right.
hard work. And you read these stories and you hear stories of people saying like, I didn't have food. I was eating, 1 to 2 meals a day. My kids were skipping meals. Now I have some cash and my kids aren't going hungry. I mean, these are common stories. And it's incredible, man. Like it's some of the most heartwarming and also just sad and just fulfilling thing that I'm doing right now. It's really special.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
And just curious about like what would be like an ideal amount for someone to receive,
Yeah.
like in a week or something. Like do you have
Yeah.
like sort of the amounts that you are targeting to give people each week, or how does that work?
Yeah. So it's really, I mean, a little money over here goes a long way.
Yeah.
And and same with the communities you're working with as well. So what we did is we looked at, you know, a lot. What is the minimum amount of money that someone needs to meet their food needs and meet their other basic needs? So it's not just how much money do they need for food; it's how much
Right.
money do they need for rent, etc. And we're sending each person, not household, each person about 30 US dollars per month over 3 months. So $90 gets someone through this really bad time. That's it. It's a
Oh
really good
wow.
use for all the stimulus checks of people getting if they don't need them, right? So
Not for sure.
$90, right? So with $90, you get a human being through this crisis. You change their lives drastically. So many of these people are living hand to mouth. They're living in really small homes, and this is like $90 is life changing, absolutely life changing.
Wow, that's so interesting. So $1 per day, basically. That's
$1 per day, exactly.
wow.
A dollar a
That's
day,
interesting.
$1 a day gets someone through the crisis.
Wow. And
Yeah,
yeah, that's amazing. I mean, to put it into that perspective, that's
yeah,
that's interesting. And how
yeah.
because for example here we buy despensas, which is like food packages,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
then we give them to the families, and according
Hmm.
to like what's inside the food package,
Yeah,
normally they're for a family of four, and it
yeah,
costs about $10, and it
yeah,
can go for 4 days, 5 days,
yeah,
depending
yeah,
on the
yeah,
content, right?
yeah.
Obviously, you can put as much as you want in the food package, but the
For
standard
sure,
will be
for
about
sure.
that. But yeah, I mean, it's a very similar uh, place,
Yeah.
that they're in here, and how do people donate? So in your website in shikilia.com, people can
Shikalia.com, there's a
go
donate button. Yeah,
credit card, PayPal.
credit
Sweet.
card, PayPal. Um, this incredible mobile money infrastructure. So mobile money here, so the ability to send money to someone mobilely via SMS is near universal. So the ability to scale this already exists. The technology exists to scale this really quickly.
Amazing.
And just the more money we raise, the more families we can reach.
Interesting. So people get their money, and then they have like an app. They can see the money in their app, and that's how they can
Yeah.
they can even move
It
their rent payment from there. They can kind of just
so
manage everything.
imagine like the big telco, like the cell service that you have.
Yeah.
They act as a bank. So they actually transact money. So you can SMS money to someone. They'll get a text message saying that they have this in their mobile wallet, and then they can use that to pay their rent. They can use that to buy food. They can use that to buy medicine because everyone uses mobile money here.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
really
that's amazing.
easy to just transact. It's amazing. So the reason why we opted for cash transfers versus food deliveries is that in Kenya, there was a study showing that in a few countries there was a study showing that if the food systems work, right? So that's a big if the food
Hmm.
systems work, which is priority, is a huge priority as well. Giving people money allows them choice of what they buy. It gives them dignity. It gives them the ability to have the choice of which fresh produce they want to buy, etc. So I think there are two key components to the informal settlements and informal sectors around the world. One is make sure the food supply chain works. So make sure food is where it needs to be. And then two, make sure people have the means to be able to buy it.
Right, because then being able to buy it is, well, they have to be able to get out, be able to access the place. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And in Kenya, the government tried food deliveries here and it caused riots,
Oh, really?
because it's tough. It's really tough, right? And you guys went through this. Like it's super tough to coordinate food delivery,
It is.
especially when you need to do like social
Buying
distancing.
them, putting them together. The government here, they have an app where they can. So obviously they go through the sanitation protocols. Everybody
Yeah, yeah,
wears protective gear and such, but you go out with a group trained in this, and they deliver the boxes without actual making contact with the people.
awesome.
They take a photo, and then they record with an app. But it's
Oh,
still
cool.
it's. But you're right. I mean, it's so like controversial because we're avoiding contact, but we need to reach
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
people. So it
It's
is a very
hard.
complicated thing, but
It's a
but
logistical problem for
it's a
sure.
logistical problem. Yeah, here
And
it's been accepted, but yeah, it's complicated.
I think over here because of mobile money, and the speed at which this can get rolled out, it's that's why there's a lot of shift towards this. So the government already has an existing cash transfer program. but it targets people who are very vulnerable to drought. So a lot of people in the north of Kenya,
Mm-hmm.
and the targeting needs to shift to people who are in the urban areas. Um, so there's already a buy-in around successive cash transfers, um, and it's worked really well. So I say Shikilia is a collaboration, just taking successful existing programs and giving it to the people who are in need. So those 80% of people who have lost partial or full income.
Yeah. So what brought you to start this? I mean, it's a very interesting initiative. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, it's so I'm part of a few private sector organizations over here, and as soon as we had the first confirmed case, the government kind of put out an open call and said to the private sector, "We need ideas of how we can help the informal economy. We need to make sure that people have access to their basic provisions, especially if we're going to go on some sort of lockdown. People are losing jobs; they're not going to be able to move around. How do we make sure that they can get by?" So I suggested cash transfers, and very quickly realized that we can get this up and running. So put together put together a group of amazing public sector and private sector organizations who've all come together on a pro bono basis right now. And for the last 6, 8 weeks, we've just started this collaboration, and started implementing. And it's been amazing to see people just give their time and give their energy, to this. Many people have full time other jobs, and they're sort of coming to the table, coming to be on the organizing committee of Shikilia, and really giving their all. And it really shows that in these sort of situations, ego doesn't matter, title doesn't matter, who you are, where you come from doesn't matter. It's all hands on deck. This is war for so many people. This is life or death, actual life or death for so many people. And in these situations, just seeing how many people have come with their full heart and come and said, let's support in any way that we can, has been super energizing. And I just feel grateful to be able to have such amazing badass people around me that are working on this with me. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. It's like, when you run a business as you do, oftentimes people are kind of asking, what do you want from them? There's a lot of politics when it comes to business relationships.
Right.
Right now, it's, I think everyone's realizing that, wow, everyone is doing this just on their own time, and there's so much collaboration. It's cool.
No, that's great. That's great. That's great. How did you get people to join the initiative initially, or like either as partners or donors? Like, what was like the most critical thing you did?
I think for partners, I think once people realized that I was doing this in my spare time, like the or like my extra time, I think they're like, holy shit, like if he can do it, I can do it. If he's running a company, then he's also doing this. Like I should be able to put my time. And then we just had a bunch of like-minded people who were like, I'm useful here. Like people are dying, I'm not. Right? I have access to everything that I need. I'm sitting in my nice apartment. I'm useful. Let's be useful. Um, and then it started growing from sort of a few people to sort of a collaboration of sort of 25 different organizations. We've raised $5 million so far, primarily through our biggest implementing partner, Give Directly. Um,
Wow,
and
amazing.
yeah, and they've been doing this work for so long, so they have a reputation. But I think for partnerships, I think it was just really like the once there was a small group of people who were just super genuine about this, everyone is
Hmm.
like, everyone's like, wow, like I can help. There's actually an easy way for me to help, right? And in these kind of situations, like people, this is such a big crisis, right? It's the first time that I've experienced every single person in the world thinking about the same exact crisis, and it's affecting them directly. And I think once people realize that they can actually help, because when you have such a big crisis, oftentimes your brain is like, there's no way I can help with this, right? There's no way. And then once I
Right.
think people realize they can help, they're like, let me jump in. And it's easy. And we just wanted to provide an easy way for people to help.
And then it's also, I mean, it's funny to say contagious, but it's also contagious. When your friends help,
Yeah.
you help, and then you kind of get other people to help in a
Yeah.
natural way. It's
Yeah, and it's kind of like what
funny.
you guys are doing, right? It's like
Yeah.
you have a platform, and it's you're like, I can help, right? Let me put together a platform. You have all these people coming together. Everyone is interested, and they're sharing it with their friends, and you just kind of, for lack of a better word, start a virus, right? And
Yeah,
it
start a
becomes
different,
viral.
a positive
Start a different
virus. Yeah.
virus. Yeah, start a
Yeah,
positive
exactly.
virus.
That's
Um,
amazing.
and
That's
then for
great.
donors, for donations, I think for the big donors that have come in, it's definitely relationships with existing partners, and it's just been like the collaboration. Like people have really been impressed by the collaboration. We have donors at NGOs like Oxfam, and we have Mercy Corps, and we have Give Directly, and we have all of these big donors under one umbrella saying, you know what, instead of us doing things separately, let's coordinate our efforts right now, because coordination right now is the it's kind of like the anti-death, right? Like the lack of coordination is really resulting in people dying, because if you lack coordination right now, you don't funnel in money as efficiently as possible, you don't allocate it as efficiently as possible, and you have all of these very big organizations saying, you know what, let's all come together, let's drop our name, let's use another brand, and let's push this because it has more power than just doing it for ourselves. And that sort of like selflessness has been, I think, a really big driver for donations.
Amazing. No, that's a really good. That's a really interesting point of view.
Yeah,
Thank you,
man.
Samir. And any suggestions for I don't know, people out there who are thinking about starting their own initiative or just helping out? I don't know, any words of
Yeah, for
Pikilia.
sure. For sure. um so again, if anybody does want to donate, we're very welcome for that, just on our website. I think if you want to start something, like, and you have the means to do it, now is the time. Um, I would say make sure you're coordinating and collaborating, and drop your ego. Like this isn't about, a lot of people sometimes want to start something because it gives them a name, and it gives them a brand, and it gives them a reputation. And that's real, right? We're all humans, right? We want to kind of do things for ourselves, but at the end of the day, if you have the energy to do something right now, partner up with people. Um, Figure out if there's a cause that is already big and up and running that you can support right now. We need to collaborate right now. This is the time to collaborate and to coordinate. And I would say just join something, if you can help in any way. Fundraise for something, spread the word. Really, anything that you do right now is helpful. And if you're looking to start something, or if you're looking to join a cause, join any cause. Just do it. Like, do it now. Do it today. Do it as soon as you're done listening to this. Don't wait. Oftentimes, people are confused by choice, right? The paradox of choice. Too many things to choose from, so I don't choose anything. Just choose something and do it. It's not going to be wrong. Anything you do right now is going to be right. Better than doing
Totally.
nothing.
All help is
Um,
welcome at the
all
moment.
help is welcome, and if you have the energy for it, just do it.
Perfect. Amazing, Samir. Thank you so much for sharing. This video will be up on the profile in case
Cool.
people want to view it again. Um, Thank you so much again, Samir, and
Thanks,
we hope to
man.
have you here sometime soon.
I hope to see you soon, and I hope everyone's staying safe and sane and healthy in all senses of the word. Take care of your mental health, take care of your physical health, take care of your spiritual health. Just keep healthy right now. And much love to everybody.
Amazing. Thank you so much,
Peace.
Samir. Have a good one.